So, good to see all of you. Numbers chapter 7 and 8 is where we are at this morning. Let me get this thing going here. Go back. Numbers chapter 7 is where we're going to start. And as you can see, there are two main divisions here. Okay, the first one is acceptable offerings. And you will notice the underneath Numbers chapter 7, we have the dedication of the altar. So the altar is being dedicated. Okay, we are getting closer and closer to Numbers chapter 10, where at verse 11, Numbers chapter 10, verse 11, is where the story picks up again. I can't remember I can't think of the word. But anyhow, we see them start their journey. So right now they're getting some final instructions. Many of these things are being repeated from Exodus perhaps, or even Leviticus. But we're getting closer to chapter 10, where they get going on the journey. And so you'll see here that the tabernacle is being set up, and it's time to dedicate that altar. So that's what we're going to see here. And then, so the acceptable offerings from the leaders, as we'll see, and then there's the actual dedication of the altar. So let's get into that first section. Verses 1 through 9 are the acceptable offerings here. It says, "Now it came to pass when Moses had finished setting up the tabernacle." There it is. So he sets up that huge tent. Now, again, my mind will probably be drifting back and forth to summer camp because we had so much fun. But those of you that were there, you remember setting up that tent, little nylon tent with some poles. And some of you had some trouble doing that. Imagine this tent. We remember maybe from Exodus, from Leviticus, some of the instructions and all of the different curtains and all the different things that went into it. There were some walls even, and all of those things had to be constructed. And here we see that Moses finally finished setting up the tabernacle. And it says that he anointed it and consecrated it, and all its furnishings, and the altar and all its utensils. So he anointed them and consecrated them. So he gets them all ready. Now in verse 2, underneath acceptable offerings, we will see that there are some offerings from the leaders. Then the leaders of Israel, the heads of their fathers' houses, who were the leaders of the tribes and over those who were numbered, made an offering. And they brought their offering before the Lord. Look at this. 6 covered carts and 12 oxen. A cart for every 2 of the leaders. So if there were 6 covered carts, and there was a cart for every 2 leaders, how many leaders were there? Somebody said it. They whispered it. What is it? If there's 1 cart for every 2 leaders, yes.
I don't have it.
Oh.
You said there were 6 carts?
There were 6 carts?
12.
All right, there it is, yes. Now, you were going to ask something or say something?
No, I was waiting for you to finish the math problem.
Oh, we're all done. All right. 6 covered carts, 12 oxen, a cart for every 2 of the leaders, and for each one an ox. And they presented them before the tabernacle. Then the Lord spoke to Moses. And so you see this conversation between God and Moses just taking place. And it's so normal to us that we read through it here in verse 4, and it's not really a big deal. God just speaks to Moses. And in verse 5, here's what he says: "Accept these from them, that they may be used in doing the work of the tabernacle of meeting. And you shall give them to the Levites, to every man according to his service." Now, does anybody remember who the Levites are? Anybody remember who
Those are guys who take care of the tabernacle.
Okay, so they weren't the priests, right? But they assisted the priests. Okay, very good. They assisted the priests. They took care of the tabernacle. They had different things that they were assigned to. But we see here in verse 5 that accept these from them, that they may be used in doing the work of the tabernacle of meeting, and you shall give them to the Levites, to every man according to his service. So Moses took the carts and the oxen and gave them to the Levites. 2 carts and 4 oxen he gave to the sons of Gershon, according to their service. And 4 carts and 8 oxen he gave to the sons of Merari, according to their service, under the authority of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. Last time we saw all of these different assignments. This group of the Levites was assigned to this, and they did this, and they did that. Verse 9, "But to the sons of Kohath he gave none." Why didn't they get any? Were they in trouble? No. Because theirs was the service of the holy things, which they carried on their shoulders. So they didn't get any of these specific provisions because they were already blessed with the task of carrying things on their shoulders. You know, for some people, that's enough. I don't need any payment. I just want to do some work. Some of us are geared that way. We see that there's work to be done, and there's something in us that just prompts us, and we jump in there, and what can I help with, and what can I do? And, you know, well, hey, it's kind of heavy, or it's just this dirty work, or you just got to carry these things. Great, I love it. And for you, that's reward enough. Just the task of being involved, carrying heavy things. And for the sons of Kohath, that was theirs. They got to carry things, so they didn't get any of these special provisions. Now, beginning in verse 10, we have the altar being dedicated. Now, you will see that in this chapter there are 89 verses. This is the longest chapter in the book of Numbers. And we are going to read very, very slowly every single verse. Exactly. Kirsten had it right. At the end, everybody will be asleep. We'll forget to sing happy birthday. We are not going to read all 89 verses. In fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you here. I'm going to read just the first portion, and then we will skip quite a bit. I'll show you here in verse 10. Now the leaders offered the dedication offering for the altar when it was anointed. So notice these are the altars being dedicated. These things are given for the dedication of the altar when it was anointed. So the leaders offered their offering before the altar. Now, why do you think? Does anybody know or have a guess? Just a guess. Why they chose just these leaders? Remember, there were 12 leaders. Why would they choose just 12 leaders to bring these offerings for the dedication of the altar? Anybody want to take a wild guess? You're just feeling crazy and you just want to throw something out there? Okay, very good. Yes. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. And now remember, there were potentially millions of people out there. So you kind of get this feeling like, listen, we got to dedicate this altar and get busy. We ain't got time for millions of people to come through and give their offerings. So they picked these representatives, these heads of the families. Verse 11, for the Lord said to Moses, they shall offer their offering, one leader each day for the dedication of the altar. Now follow along with me. One leader each day. There were how many leaders?
12.
Yes, 12. And if there's one leader each day, that means how many days?
12.
Yes. This side over here, awake. Right? And so it says in verse 12, and the one who offered his offering on the first day was Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, from the tribe of Judah. Now listen, it says in verse 13, his offering was 1 silver platter, the weight of which was 130 shekels, and 1 silver bowl of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour, mixed with oil as a grain offering, 1 gold pan of 10 shekels, full of incense. So as they're giving these pans, these different plates and different things, they're filled with items. They were giving the entire thing. Not only was the contents given, but also the plate, the gold plate or the bowl or whatever they were using, the silver bowls. So they were giving all of that. Why were they giving that? They were giving that for use in the tabernacle, for the priests to be able to use. But we read on, it says in verse 15 that they also brought, this leader brought 1 young bull, 1 ram, and 1 male lamb in its first year as a burnt offering. So those things would be burnt. 1 kid of the goats as a sin offering. And for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs in the first year. This was the offering of Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. So quite a few items there, bringing some gold plates, some silver bowls, some animals, all these different things filled with items. And here you go, they're offering it to the Lord in order to dedicate the altar. Now you will notice, verse 18, on the second day, Nathanael. We do not need to read through all of these because they're the exact same items. Okay? So you have in verse 18, Nathanael. And then you have again in verse 24, the third day, Eliab came with the same items. Verse 30, on the fourth day, Eliezer, he came with the same items. Verse 36, on the fifth day, Shelomiel came with the same items. Verse 42, on the sixth day, Eliasaph came with his offering, same things. Verse 48, on the seventh day, Elishama, okay, came with the same things. Verse 54, on the eighth day, Gamaliel came with the same items, his offering. Verse 60, on the ninth day, Abidan came with the same things. Verse 66, on the 10th day, Ahiezer came with his offerings. Verse 72, on the 11th day, Pagiel, leader of the children of Asher, brought the offerings. And then finally in verse 78, on the 12th day, Ahira, the son of Enan, a leader of the children of Naphtali, brought his offerings, or their offerings. And so you have in verse 84, so we have, I'm sorry, I get behind. You have the 12 days, and then what we have here, verse 84, is a tally of all things, and it tells us there that this was the dedication offering for the altar from the leaders of Israel when it was anointed. 12 silver platters, 12 silver bowls, 12 gold pans. So we're told there what everything that they brought, what it weighed, about the animals, everything that was offered. And so they just were keeping this record of all of these different items so that they could remember. Now, in verse 89, this is interesting. We've got the 12 days, and then the tally, and then we have this talking here in verse 89. Now, when Moses went into the tabernacle of meeting to speak with him, to speak with who? Who did Moses go into the tabernacle to speak with? Anybody know? What do you think, Tobiah?
God.
Yeah, went in to speak with God. That's who dwelt, so to speak, in the tabernacle. That's what God said. Listen, we're going to build this tabernacle. We're going to set up this box, and we're going to have these cherubim, these angels on them, and I'm going to dwell in between those things. Okay? And so that's, when you go in there, that's who you would talk with. So in verse 89, now when Moses went into the tabernacle of meeting to speak with him, with God, he heard the voice of one speaking to him from above the mercy seat that was on the ark of the testimony. So you have this box. Now, in case you were not here with us when we went through all of these items, maybe some of you have seen Indiana Jones, and I don't remember exactly which movie it was, but there's the Ark of the Covenant, Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? So they had this box covered in gold. They had a top on it with these two angels, and so you kind of get an idea. But God speaks to him from between the two cherubim. Thus he spoke to him. So it's just interesting that when the people did what they were supposed to do, when they did what God had instructed them to do, set up the tabernacle, do these things, put these items in this place and that place, when they do that, God speaks to them. It may be that some of us want to hear from the Lord, but we may not be going about the right way of hearing from the Lord. Can God speak to you if you're watching anime for 13 hours a day? Perhaps he can. Maybe he can. He's God. He can do anything. However, he has instructed us that to go to his word and that he'll speak to us there from his word. So could God listen, speak to me while I'm spending all day long, watching Netflix or YouTube or whatever? Perhaps he can. However, there's a much greater chance of God speaking to me from what he's already spoken. So to go to his word and spend time in his word. Now, you want to be mindful of that because it's summertime. And summertime is for what? Summertime is for lazy days, man. And there's some wisdom to that. Being able to just hang out, let your mind rest from all of that schoolwork that you were doing and all of the schoolwork that you're going to start in probably about another month. wanted to bless you and remind you of that. That school will be starting probably in about a month. And but it's good. It's good. I actually enjoy. I think it's a good thing once in a while to just what we call veg out. Sit on the couch, watch some TV or whatever, and just kind of do nothing. Now we need to be careful with what we're watching and all of that. But it's good. It's good to just kind of let your brain, just what's the word when you just kind of let it. Anyways, you just let your brain rest. Forgetting all my words this morning. But here, when they do what God tells them to do, then God speaks to Moses. It's a great lesson for you and I, that if we want to hear from God, let's do what God wants us to do. Let's go to his word, and then he'll speak to us from that. Now, we move on into chapter 8 very quickly, Numbers chapter 8, and we're going to see two main divisions here. We're going to see the placement of the lamps, and we're going to see the preparation of the Levites. Placement of the lamps, and then the preparation of the Levites. Verse 1, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron. Say to him, when you arrange the lamps, Aaron, the 7 lamps shall give light in front of the lampstand. Now, this is sometimes, again, kind of hard for us to imagine. Because we come into a room, the first thing that we do is we flick a light on. And bam, the lights are on, and we can see everything. You'll need to remember that they did not have electricity. They didn't have lights in the tabernacle. So what was lighting, what was the only source of light in there was from these lampstands. And so they needed to make sure that they were placed correctly, so something very practical here. Verse 3, and Aaron did so. He arranged the lamps to face toward the front of the lampstand as the Lord commanded Moses. Now, this workmanship of the lampstand was hammered gold. So God had instructed them earlier, make the lampstand out of hammered gold. From its shaft to its flowers, it was hammered work, according to the pattern which the Lord had shown Moses. So he made the lampstand. Okay? Now, we have in verses 1 through 4, placement of the lamps is what we just read through, but we go to verse 5 now, preparation of the Levites. And the first thing that we're going to see is this purification. Verses 5, 6, and 7. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites. Now again, remember, as Joab told us, they were servants in the tabernacle. They were not offering things. They weren't priests. They did whatever the priest needed. They were there to assist. So take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them ceremonially. Mine puts in italics, meaning it wasn't originally there in the original writing, but they added that later on to give us an idea. Cleanse them ceremonially. This was a ceremony. Verse 7. Thus you shall do to them. Do this to cleanse them. Sprinkle water of purification on them, and let them shave all their body. Them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Preparation is a huge deal. Preparation or lack of preparation can win or lose the day for us. Preparation is huge. I'm always telling my family to stay aware, be prepared. One day my son got home. I was there by myself, and I was out in, I was kind of back and forth between the garage in the front and going to the backyard and back and forth. And I had locked up the front door. And we have 2 doors. We've got obviously our regular door, and then we've got one of those security gates. I don't know how many of you have a security gate, but both doors have a deadbolt on them and then the regular doorknob. Where I live is, we're not getting, attacked daily or anything, but it's not the safest place. And so I had locked all 4. Okay, I locked both deadlocks and both doorknobs, and had those keys with me. And I was in the back, and my son got home, and he came. He had been inside already. I did not know. And then he came back around the side as I was coming around the front. He's coming around out the front door also. And he goes, "Hey man, some of you met my son." He goes, "Hey man, why'd you lock all 4 locks? You think someone's going to break in while you're here walking back and forth?" I said, "Yeah, it's exactly what I think." That's why I'm prepared. That's why nobody broke in, because I locked all 4 locks. And that's my mindset. I'm like that all the time. I'm always looking around. I walk out of a store or even out of my house in the morning, and I'm looking everywhere. My mind is going, whose car is that? I don't recognize that car. Why is it parked there? Or is there anybody that I see a car over there? Is somebody sitting in there? I'm just always doing that. I'm always on the lookout, always aware. And once in a while, you'll catch me unaware, and then I just feel so ashamed. It's like, oh, I failed. But I'm always looking around and watching, and who's going, what's happening. We were at camp during the week, and I was talking to somebody over here, and then all of a sudden, I caught this person that I did not recognize, a teenager, walking past our tents, and so the person is still talking, but I'm looking at that person like, what are they doing? Now, I didn't say anything. I'm just watching them and thinking, okay, do I need to jump up and run and tackle this person? Do I need to call the police? What do I need to do? What's going on? And I'm watching them, and then I watch them walk back, and then, so I'm always like, I'm talking to you, and I'm looking over here, and what's going on, and who's going to attack? And just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean someone's not out to get me, So that's my mindset. I always want to be prepared. And preparation can either, as I said, either win the day or lose the day for us. Sunday mornings. Let's use Sunday mornings as an example, just to throw it out there. Sunday mornings are rough, aren't they? You come in, it's tough. You sit down, listening to, the lights go down, worship starts, strumming of the guitar, and woo, there goes my mind. It's like, whoa, what's going on? I'm going down fast, just getting ready to crash. And then the study comes, Pastor Chris gets up there and starts to teach, and we're reading through 89 verses of Numbers chapter 7. It's like, oh man, I'm ready. And then it's funny, if you come back on a Wednesday night, those of you that come on Wednesday night, all of a sudden it's like party atmosphere in here. Everybody comes in, everybody's alert, everybody's answering questions, and everybody's having a good time. What's the difference? The difference is preparation for many of us. The difference for many of us on a Sunday morning is that we didn't prepare on Saturday night. Our minds were catching up on our Netflix binging. Or we were watching YouTube videos, or we were watching a scary movie, or we were playing games or whatever, and we stayed up way too late. And then Sunday morning comes, and mom and dad like, hey, let's go, get up, we got to go to church, and you're rolling out of bed, crawling out of bed, like, oh, do I got to go, and we didn't prepare. So then we come on Sunday morning, and we're missing things. Our mind isn't engaged, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? We're done? What happened? Where am I at? We're missing things. But that can happen in every area of our lives. Now, what we're reading through here in Numbers chapter 8 has to do with ministry. It has to do with ministry. And preparation is so very key. Imagine if I showed up and I wasn't ready with a study, and I said, well, let's go through Numbers chapter 8, and I don't know what's there, but let's just read through it. If I'm not really sure. Okay, let's just skip off and go to Numbers chapter. Let's keep going until we find something interesting. Can you imagine? There were times in years past, not here, but in years past, being involved. I've been teaching for a long time. There were times where it was so busy in ministry that I would show up on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night and wouldn't have my study ready. It was like, I know we're supposed to be in Acts chapter 3, but I didn't even get a chance to read it. So, hey, everybody, let's open up to Acts chapter 3, and we'll just go through it. And I would leave feeling like just the biggest loser in the world because I wasn't ready. When it comes to ministry, when it comes to anything, if you're asking me, when it comes to anything, we need to do our best to be prepared, right? If you want to make sure you're leaving for camp tomorrow, pack enough chonies, man, because you don't want to be, you get there and you're unprepared. No good. But especially in ministry, we want to be prepared. And here, God is prepared. That poor kid, I don't know, being murdered? I'm not really sure. Just falling off the top of the playground or something. But preparation is so key. And here, God is preparing the Levites for ministry. This is a big deal. And here he starts with this purification. He sprinkles them with water. Many of you might not have any kind of idea, like sprinkle them with water, what is that? I actually grew up being a wannabe Catholic, so occasionally I would go to Catholic church. And I was actually at a Catholic church not too long ago, because I'm thinking about going back and being a Catholic. Just kidding. I was at a funeral, and there for a family member, and my in-law, and again, the priest came through, and they have these incense, these little censer, I guess it's called, but they put incense and it's burning, and they come through and they do this thing with the incense, and it actually smells pretty good, or at least I like it. Some people don't like it. But then he'll also come through with a bucket with this, I'm not trying to make fun of him, I don't know what it's called, actually I don't remember, but it's like a wand, basically. And they'll dip that in, pull it out, and then they'll sprinkle the casket. They'll sprinkle the casket, they walk around, sprinkle the casket. And so I don't know exactly how this took place, because we're not given those details, but I kind of get that picture of, from me being an ex-Catholic, of this water being sprinkled on them, and so there was this water. Maybe he just did it with his hand. Moses just took water and sprinkled it on them, probably is how they did it. But in verse 7, sprinkle water of purification on them. Now, how did that water become water of purification? Well, they would go to a well of purification, and there was a specific well over there that had just purified water in it. Just kidding. It was just regular water, but it was part of the ceremony. They would take this water, and they would sprinkle that on them as a symbol of them being washed. And then they, the Levites, would have to shave all their body. Now, I'm pretty manly. I'm pretty tough. If you told me I had to shave my hair, I'd be like, what? I got to do what? And I would just feel like such a sissy. But thankfully, I didn't have to do that in order to come here. Imagine Pastor John, hey, we want you to come over and be a youth pastor, but first you got to shave. But they had to shave their body, and then they had to wash their clothes, and it was part of the ceremony, make themselves clean. Now, after the purification came this presentation. And we're going to see here that the Levites themselves were presented, but they also presented sacrifices. Let's read through this in verse 8. Then let them take a young bull with its grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil. And you shall take another young bull as a sin offering. And you shall bring the Levites before the tabernacle of meeting, and you shall gather together the whole congregation of the children of Israel. Millions! So you shall bring the Levites before the Lord. And the children of Israel shall lay their hands on the Levites. Now, there's a lot of people to be laying hands on these Levites. It may be that the Levites, remember, there were quite a few of them, so maybe they kind of spread out and everybody kind of got in there. Maybe it was just the leaders. We're not really sure. But they laid hands on these guys. And in verse 11, and Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord, like a wave offering from the children of Israel, that they may perform the work of the Lord. So as the Levites were brought forward, then Aaron would go out there and ceremonially present them to the Lord. Just like he might with a wave offering or some other offering, bring those before the Lord and say, okay, here you are, God, these are for you. They did the same things with the Levites. This presentation. Some great lessons here. A couple of things. Number one, when I am getting involved in ministry at any level, remember, these are not priests. These are the guys that would carry things. And yet they're going through this whole ceremony. It's a good idea for me. It's a good thing that as I'm going into the ministry that I'm preparing mentally and spiritually. Maybe even sometimes physically. Some of you have been with me to Mexico trips. And I will tell you, hey, be careful with what you're eating and drinking. Now, I know how it is. Sometimes, your parents aren't around. Hey, man, we're going to Mexico. Spring break 2022. Woo! And you go down and you feel like, yeah, I'm going to drink all kinds of junk and eat all kinds of Mexican candy, and it's going to be the best mission trip ever. But we want to be mindful. Some of you may remember, I reminded you, listen, we're going down to serve. And we're using our bodies. So, yeah, drink some soda, eat some candy. But also be careful not to overdo it. Because we want to be able to give our best to the work, to our Mexican brothers and sisters there. We want to do our best. And so you want to do the same thing. You want to be mindful. You know, if you're coming to serve on a Sunday morning, it's always a good thing to get enough sleep the night before. If you're going to serve in some other capacity, you know, maybe children's ministry or whatever, you know, you want to, you don't want to go, well, they're just kids, they don't care, whatever. I'll just open up and read David and Goliath or something. No, you want to be prepared. Preparation is a good thing. I want to get my mind ready. I want to get my heart ready, and I want to go into that prepared and say, yeah, no, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go serve. This is the picture here with the Levites. God is preparing them, presenting them before everybody and saying, okay, these guys are getting ready to serve. This is serious stuff. Now, let me ask you a question, because I know where some of you might be going. Some of you might be going here. Were the Levites super spiritual people? Were they more spiritual than everyone else? No. They were just people. It was just the tribe of Levi. It was just guys. They were just people. They weren't any more spiritual than anyone else. They weren't perfect people. They weren't the holiest people in all of the tribes. Because I say that because some of us think, well, you know, man, I can't really serve at church because, you know what, you just got to be so holy. Maybe you see people up on the stage and you think, well, look how holy they are. I mean, Matt, you know, he must be a Levite because he shaved his head, you know, and you know he doesn't have any hair, and so he must be a Levite. But you don't have to be. We're not talking about being holier than anybody else or perfect or any of those things. We're talking about being human, just being people. But we want to do our best to prepare ourselves to say, God, you know what? Why were they? Notice this. Look at verse 8. Read that with me again. In fact, somebody else read that for me, verse 8. Who's got it and you can read it nice and loud for me, verse 8. Go ahead, Caleb.
Then let them.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Then let them take a young bull with its grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, and you shall take another younger bull as a sin offering.
Excellent job. Thank you very much. You read loud and clear. What was that second young bull for at the very end? For a sin offering. See that? Because they were just people. They had to bring a sin offering. I'm just a people. I'm just a person. I'm just a guy. I struggle with things. The people that you saw up here this morning, Exceli and Kirsten and Jordan, just people. They're not any more perfect or holy than you are, or you know, any of those things. They don't, you know, they're not super spiritual people. They love the Lord. Yes, we love the Lord. Yes. But we still struggle with sin. And these guys here, they had to come with their sin offering. Why? Why would they? Because they had sinned. Because they were sinners. But God was pulling them into ministry. And so you have this whole preparation taking place, and this presentation where people are laying their hands on these people, and you know, they're just dedicating them to the Lord. That's what they're doing. Look at verse 12. Then the Levites shall lay their hands on the heads of the young bulls. So now the Levites were presented. Now here comes the animals, verse 12. And, excuse me, and you shall offer one as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering to the Lord, to make atonement for the Levites. They needed to be atoned for. They needed to be paid for because they were not perfect people. They were men who struggled with sin. And in verse 13, you shall stand the Levites before Aaron and his sons, and then offer them like a wave offering to the Lord. Now, they didn't have to pick them up and wave them around, but it's just like they would do. They would present it to the Lord. Verse 15, after that the Levites shall go into service the tabernacle of meeting. So you shall cleanse them and offer them like a wave offering, for they are wholly given to me from among the children of Israel. I have taken them for myself instead of all who open the womb, the firstborn of all the children of Israel. You may remember that the people were required to bring the firstborn of their animals to give to God. they were also required to dedicate their firstborn to the Lord. They were required to do that. And what God is saying is here that he's not taking the firstborn of all of the sons. He didn't physically take the firstborn of all the sons. You would dedicate your firstborn, but he wasn't actually taking them away from their families. He said, instead, what I'm going to do is I'll just take the whole tribe of Levi. They're for me. Look at this in verse 16. I have taken them for myself instead of all who opened the womb, the firstborn of all the children of Israel. For all the firstborn among the children of Israel are mine. He says they're already mine. They're dedicated to me, both man and beast. On the day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified the firstborn of Israel to myself, he's saying. I have taken the Levites instead of all the firstborn of the children of Israel. And I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons from among the children of Israel to do the work for the children of Israel in the tabernacle of meeting, and to make atonement for the children of Israel, that there be no plague among the children of Israel when the children of Israel come near the sanctuary. Thus Moses and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel did to the Levites, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites, so the children of Israel did to them. And the Levites purified themselves and washed their clothes, like we read. Then Aaron presented them like a wave offering before the Lord. It's just giving us a recap of everything here. Verse 22, after that the Levites went in to do their work in the tabernacle of meeting before Aaron and his sons, as the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites, so they did to them. And then we find out in verses 23 through 26 that there were parameters for age, the Levites. Look at verse 24. This is what pertains to the Levites. From 25 years old and above, one may enter to perform service in the work of the tabernacle of meeting. So these guys, the Levites, at 25, they could enter in to start working. Verse 25. And at the age of 50 years, they must cease performing this work and shall work no more. Why is that? Why did they have to stop at 50? Because after 50, there's no use for you anymore, right? I mean, that is just absolutely ancient. You're so old, you can't do anything, right? No, that's not it at all. Look at verse 26. They may minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of meeting to attend to needs, but they themselves shall do no work. It was for those that were 25 to 50. Once you hit 51, it was, you could still serve. You would be assisting those that were younger than you, and it was a way to make, to give everybody a chance to serve all of the Levites. And at the end of verse 26, thus you shall do to the Levites regarding their duties. And so we have this incredibly interesting portion of Scripture where we see God presenting the Levites so that they can be, so that they can start serving. What did Paul tell us in Romans? Does anybody remember what Paul told us in Romans about presenting something? Anybody remember? What did he say?
Present yourselves as a holy act of sacrifice to God.
Yes, present yourselves, right? Go ahead.
Which is pleasing to him.
Yes. Which is pleasing, which is acceptable, which is reasonable. It says it's your reasonable service. Paul told us there in Romans that we should, because we're Christians, we're not Levites. You go, well, I'm not a Levite. I don't have to present myself to the Lord. No, even more importantly, we're Christians. We're named after his son, the Christ. We are little Christs. That's what Christians means. We're followers of Christ. And even more so, we ought to present ourselves, present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service. It's reasonable. All of us, not just a certain segment, I'm not a Levite, so I can't do it. No, all of us as Christians, Paul tells us there, that we should be ready to serve in any capacity. Whether it's some form of serving here on the stage, or whether it's some form of serving, down here, way down there off of the stage, so far down, Maybe it's showing up early to serve. Maybe it's staying late to serve. But we should all be looking for opportunities to serve, to present ourselves as living sacrifices. Say, God, here I am. I'm yours. And in so doing, you do not need to be perfect. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for willingness, not perfection. But there is that sense that the Levites come in and they had to bring these offerings, and one of them being a sin offering. And when we serve God, we do want to come with the right mindset. And not, well, God, I'd like to serve you as long as it's on the stage. If it's not on the stage, God, I can't serve. It's not the right mindset. The right mindset for somebody that wants to serve God is, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. You want me to take out the trash? God, you want me to clean some toilets? God, you want me to pick up, you want me to vacuum? You want me to do something in the back where no one can see me? Hit the computer keys? Or what would you like for me to do, God? It's whatever you want to do, God. I remember when I first got saved. Believe it or not, I was not born a Christian. I got saved when I was 20 years old. And I did not immediately become a teacher. I didn't immediately start teaching the Bible. It wasn't really that dramatic. At 20 years old, I got saved. And I said, God, I will do anything you want me to do. You want me to scrub toilets? God, I'll scrub toilets. I'm going to wipe the floor, wipe the floor, vacuum. I'll do anything you want. God, just let me have the privilege of serving you. And that's how it started. Church work days. At a little church, little Calvary Chapel I was going to in Colton, show up and, rake a little bit or sweep things or pick trash up or, fix whatever I could. Did a lot of painting, cleaning the toilets, all of those different things, organizing things. And I was, man, for me, it was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible, God. And I would leave from those church work days, like, oh, I got to serve God. This is incredible, and it was enough. That was like, that's it, God. I'm on cloud 9 now, like for the next month, like, yeah, I got to clean a toilet, man, at the church, and it was just so exciting, and walked on, and I just did that for a while, just whatever they needed, just do that. Then that turned into, hey, we need somebody to hit this is huge, hit the record button on the recording equipment Sunday morning. I think I can do that. Started recording. Oh, Lord, thank you so much for letting me push a button. That was awesome. That was incredible, And I tell him, I found out, we got to get to church early. What's the rush? I got to push a button. Let's go. It's a big deal. Those things were enough for me. I remember going to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa one time years ago. Some kind of conference. And I heard a pastor there say that years prior, he had been the maintenance man at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. And I was like, Lord, that would be, I wish I could be a maintenance man at a church. And years later, that's exactly what happened. I got hired on at Calvary Chapel, San Bernardino as the maintenance guy. And I would vacuum the rugs, and clean the toilets and trim the plants just how Pastor John wanted them trimmed, Oh, you missed one. Oh, sorry about that. Whatever. And, all those little things. And, and that was like, oh, man, this is incredible. I used to love those doing those things. Just, it was enough. It was enough. And, we want to have that mindset of showing up and just saying, Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do. What do you want me to do? You want me to wipe down the seat? Sometimes you come in and you look at the seat and it's dirty and you're like, ugh, I'm not touching that thing. And, you move over to the other one and leave it for your friend. But we should be looking for things to do. And, hey, let me wipe something down and let me vacuum. Or, hey, it looks a little bit dirty in here, Pastor Chris. You want me to vacuum? Yes, vacuum. Grab the vacuum. And, you don't even have to ask. You don't even have to ask. You just want to grab the vacuum and start vacuuming? Do it. You don't have to ask. Or, hey, I saw this or whatever, and let me just do, you just get in the mindset, like, what, I just want to be like the Levites. Like, let me just have the privilege of carrying something. Just give me something to carry. Okay, see that ice chest, pick it up, carry it around the church, and then bring it back or something, Like, oh, I just want to carry something. But we do want to have that element of preparation and just, I'm coming to serve the Lord. And I want to do it and do it to the best of my ability. And I want to be prepared. And I want to be mindful about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and do the very best that I can. that's what we're seeing here in Numbers chapter 8, is God preparing these Levites, saying, hey, you guys are getting ready to go serve in the tabernacle, and I want you to take it serious, and we're going to put you out in front of everybody, and everybody's going to see you, and they're going to lay their hands on you to acknowledge that, yes, these guys are getting ready to serve God, and let's just mentally and spiritually, obviously, prepare for serving God, and look for opportunities to do all of those, what we call menial tasks. And that word menial to us is like, oh, but it's a menial task. I know, those are the best ones. Those are the best ones. Because you can just put your earbuds in, listen to your worship music or Bible study, and just do it, man. And just because nobody wants to come near you because they don't want to do the menial things. And you just serve. So let's have that kind of a mindset, like, God, I want to serve. And let's do our best to be prepared and look for opportunities. You come out of your house, you don't have to just be paranoid like Pastor Chris, like, who's that over there, what's going on, what are the neighbors there, what's going on. But also, Lord, what can I do? Where's there to serve? How can I serve you today? Father, thank you so much for